Pranam. Shiva, 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 Shiva. Just 2 days short of Mahashivaratri, and we have a very special guest amongst us, Sri Guru Rohit Arya, who needs no new introduction on the social media sphere, especially Facebook. He has a considerable following of some of the most sincere people on the path of Dharma from different sampradayas, known as sects in English. But he is dedicated to Shiva, especially the Nataraja form. Today, he is going to throw light and enlighten us on the Shaivas Sampradaya in Tamil Nadu, which is not theologically that well explained. Whether you look for the details on Google, whether you go to Wikipedia, they may give you a history, they may give you especially the part where the Cholas ruled in what is now Tamil Nadu and also other parts of southern India, but the theological aspect of it. When I discussed the issue with Sri Guru Rohit Arya, he insisted that there was a particular aspect of this theology that he would like to elaborate on, which is that the temple is Shiva, the bhakta is Shiva, and Shiva, of course, is Shiva. Welcome to the show, Sri Guru Rohit Arya.
Namaskaram, everybody. Om Shiva Chidambaram. So,
Sri Guru, the stage will be all yours shortly, and
Okay.
you can speak non-stop on Shiva. Of course, as our Purana says, that even when Vishnu and Brahma set out to find the beginning and end of the Linga, they couldn't find it. And then, of course, there is this story that Brahma lied about it, which is why he was cursed not to be worshipped ever. But that apart, we all know, there is no beginning, no end to Shiva. But I am very honestly, very humbly, not even, I do not have even a fraction of the knowledge of what Shiva is, how he needs to be approached, etc. And therefore, I leave the stage all to you, unless you say that now it is time for taking some questions.
all right.
Over to you.
Okay,
Shri
thank you. Once again, namaskaram to all. I am not an expert on Shiva. I can claim to be a bhakta. Or more accurately, I can claim to be somebody who has been kidnapped by Shiva and, I'm suffering Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, like he has made me his, in a sense. So I'm not an expert on Tamil Shaivism either. I have done a lot of reading on my own because there is a huge problem there, and that is Tamil language. I'm a Malayali, and the Tamil language and the few translations we have of the primary text, whether of the Agamas, the Tevaram, the Periya Puranam, they are not, they are not high quality, let us say. They are okay, they are decent, so I kind of figure my way out. But one thing I found very striking, very, very, very striking, is the relationship of Shiva with Tamil Nadu. Now, a lot of Tamils do say, a section, I shall say, they do say that Shiva is a Tamil god and you fellows stole him. Which of course is not factually true, but psychologically, I think it is perhaps true, that Shiva is a Tamil god. I will venture to say that there is no space in the universe where Shiva is loved as much as Tamil Nadu loves him. Maybe others will say, no, we love equally. I concede that, but I will not concede that you can love more. Because if you look at what they have done in Tamil Nadu, the way they have saturated the entire land with Shiva Kshetrams, and every Purana, wherever there is an incident, something that Shiva did, they have built a temple for that. So I'll just roll out all these things and how I went on like 5-year pilgrimage to all these spots, looking what have they done here, why have they done this like this. So theologically, what they have something is very interesting. It's a bhakti marga mostly. There are agamas and there are upasana, sadhana, all that, but it is fundamentally a strong bhakti marga, and they have one unique, what do we call, aspect to it. In that, for them, there is Mahadeva, of course. There is Shivan, as they say, Shivan. And when they mean Shivan, they usually mean Nataraja. Like the Shiva in form, Shiva with Rupa is very well developed in Tamil Nadu. There are multiple Rupas of Shiva. You started off by saying about the pillar of fire, the cosmic pillar of fire that nobody could find. There is a Rupa for that also, called Lingodbhava. Where Brahma is the swan on the top and there is Vishnu like a boar at the bottom. So there is a Rupa for that. They have multiple Rupas. All those Rupas are worshipped in some Sannadhi or some temple. So the kind of richness in the forms of Shiva, which is a very unusual thing, because Shiva is supposed to be not worshipped in form. That is a general idea, that there should only be the Shivalingam. Shivalingam is neither Rupa nor Arupa. It is Rupa Arupa. There is formless form. But in Tamil Nadu, when they say Shiva, they usually mean Nataraja, or the Lord of the upraised foot. That is what they call, because the upraised foot is the repository of grace. Like salvation comes from the upraised foot of Shiva. So so that is one unique aspect of it. In fact, Chidambaram, which is synonymous with the Nataraja temple, is actually the Akashalinga temple. The Nataraja is the Utsava Murti, and he has become dominant over there. The Akashalinga is kind of sidelined. So another concept they have is Mula Murti, Pradhana Murti. Like, what is the original? Like just like Madurai Meenakshi. Everybody says Madurai Meenakshi, but it is actually fundamentally a Shiva temple. Sundareshwara. It is just that Sundareshwara is Mula Murti and Meenakshi is now Pradhana Murti. Similarly, in Jambukeshwara temple, which is the water lingam, over the Akhilendeshwari has become the Pradhana Murti. So there are many, many temples like this, where the distinction between Mula Murti and Pradhana Murti is very clear. So again, to come back to what I find really striking, which I don't think any other sampradaya of Sanatana Dharma has covered, is that they insist. One, they of course accept that there is a thing called moksha, there is a thing called mukti, they accept all that. But for them, the ultimate achievement is to be part of the bhaktas with Shiva in Kailasa. And what they insist is that the bhakta is Shiva. If you can be in that presence, then you are in the presence of Shiva. Secondly, they insist that the koil, the temple, is the Kshetram, is also Shiva. Now, you could say that the Vaishnavas also have a similar thing, that they want to be in Vaikuntha. But I've never heard this insistence that the temple, physically the temple itself, the koil itself is Shiva. This is very unique. What they mean is that every time you enter into a temple, you are engulfed within Shiva. So there is this aspect of all pervasiveness. There is this aspect of that all aspects of life are flooded with that supreme consciousness that is Shiva. And there is no aspect of life which is outside of it. And the temples, they would keep building these temples, one after the other, magnificent temples. In any sane country, we would recognize that this is something fantastic and supernatural. But precisely because we have so many of them, we don't seem to care. I cannot tell you, like, 2 kilometers, there are temples, each more spectacular than the other. In architectural terms, in spiritual terms, in terms of the kind of sculpture there, and also another thing I've noticed is that the more famous temples tend to be the ones with less Shakti. The more touristy type of temples tend to be the ones with less Shakti. There are 4 what are called imperial Chola temples: Tanjavur, Darasuram, Gangaikonda Cholapuram, and then there is one which is built at the time of decline, but that has a Sarveshwara shrine, and that is by far the best in Shakti terms. So, once you start on this journey, you begin to distinguish between, I suppose, Mula Murti and Pradhana Murti in that sense, or between what is हाथी के दांत जो दिखाने के होते हैं और चबाने के जो होते हैं.
Yes.
And
Yes.
many of these temples are दिखाने के दांत. In fact, in Kanchipuram there is a Kailasanathar, very famous, brilliant. I mean, the kind of sculptural library that has been created in that temple is awesome. It is probably the best in terms of Shaiva sculptures. But in the Sthala Puranam itself, it says that it is not the best temple, because one of the Myanmars, the Shiva Bhaktas, when the king was going to inaugurate that temple, Shiva came in the dream and said, tomorrow I can't come because tomorrow I'm going to a greater temple than this. And that is
Hmm.
the temple of the heart created by Pusalar. And so it is outside Chennai. There's a small little temple built by the same king who was like, who's this guy who beat me and made a bigger, more magnificent temple? But it was an internal temple. It was a manas. It was created entirely in the heart and the mind. So in that Sthala Purana of this magnificent achievement of Indian art and culture, it is already considered that this is not spiritually that great. There was something that spiritually topped it. So that is a small matter. We needn't get into that. But in terms of what they did, they kind of immerse themselves in this Devta cult. Now, let me say another thing. Tamil Nadu is like another Himalaya with the amount of kshetrams it has, with the amount of sacred spaces it has. Devi temples, each one better than the other. Ganpati temples, fantastic. Muruga temples, fantastic. Vishnu temples, don't ask. In fact, Tamil Nadu may be the only place where actually Sri Bhagavan Vishnu is worshipped, not one of his avatars. Like Vishnu, proper
Yes.
Vishnu is worshipped, not the avatars. Of course, then Padmanabha Swami, but Thiruvananthapuram, that was always a Tamil Nadu area, that capital of Kerala was always Tamil Nadu. Thiruvananthapuram. Thiru is always a Tamil word, not a Malayalam word in that sense. So it is not like, but since I am so close to Nataraja, I went looking for the Shiva I went looking for what all they have done in the Shiva if Nataraja gives me life enough, because I doubt very much, there are so many to see, then I'll start looking at the others. But at present, I'm just focusing on the. And in the old text, they mentioned 275 famous Shiva temples where the Myanmars have sung about it. So they are called, excuse my pronunciation, but they are called Padal Petrasthala, the places where song was sung.
Hmm.
And so great bhaktas sung about those places, sung about the Mahima, sung about the. Unfortunately, we know only about 200 of them. The full 275 have not been discovered. But I can tell you that till now I have never stepped into one of those temples, which is not an extraordinary experience. It blows you away. Now, if you are in the Bhakti Marga, if you are in the meditation Marga, if you are in the Puja Upasana, Homam, Havan, those kind of things, if you are in the Mantra Japa path, any of these places are awesome for these practices. They are very Vedic. They are not tantric. Yeah, so those who are hardcore tantric it won't work for them. Like even what we call Shiva is in one sense a more acceptable form of what in the tantric original was Bhairava and in the Vedic original was Rudra. Like they were both very uncontrollable, fierce deities who would cause a lot of havoc, and then I think they sort of took qualities from both and sort of softened it down, and the step down transformation is what we call Shiva. Okay.
Yeah.
What is that? There was a sudden.
No, that was a video that came up for
Okay,
reminding
okay,
the. Yeah.
okay. No problem.
Sorry for the
Right.
interruption.
No problem. So
Hmm.
what we call Shiva, in whether you accept the the tantric stream of Bhairava or the Vedic stream of Rudra, what we call Shiva is certainly a sort of slightly later development. Another thing that I find very interesting is that if you look at all the old iconography of Shiva, you will never see a Trishula. Trishul, you will never see. You will see axe, you will see khadag, you will see a straight sword, you will see bow.
Yeah.
So, we know that. Pinaka, the Parishu was given to Parashurama. The sword, which was called Chandrahasa, was given to Ravana. And, he kept the bow. One bow he also gave to Parashurama. So, when exactly did the Trishul become part of the iconography? Because even in the old Agamas, it is not mentioned. So,
Hmm.
this is something that organically happened. And when I mentioned this, I was abused for being an English speaking guru who doesn't know anything.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, of course, me being me, I said he borrowed it from his wife, because after doing after doing so much done, एक परशुराम को एक रावण को, now okay, now क्या करें. But if you look at it, it is the Agora Bhairava in South India, especially Tamil Nadu. They have Aghora form, Bhairava form, and it's always with this big, gigantic trishul held across the body. So that's probably where it came from. That's probably where. So, and then today you cannot conceive of Shiva without trishul. But if you look
Yes.
at all the old temples, there is no trishul anywhere in sight. In fact, even Bhairava used to have a short stabbing trident, which was a close quarters combat weapon. It was not this long thing that we associate today. So this is another interesting aspect of iconography and how things change. Whether it makes any great difference, I don't think so. But it's still interesting, that even the rupa of a deva can change. So in Tamil Nadu, you can see like the progression from the earliest rock cut caves to like the full granite structures of Brihadishwara and Gangaikonda Cholapuram, like the height of imperial power and class and art and, well developed classical age. You can see that. But at the same time, there is this subterranean or not subterranean, there is this social stream of pure unadulterated love towards Shiva, which is just something extraordinary. Like the two main books for the Tevaram and what is called the Periya Puranam. These are the two main books. And again, like I said, they are not very well translated, but the stories in them, you're like, okay, these are bhaktas, because there's one chappy, he'll steal from the king the money he was given and he'll build a temple. Then somebody will say something insulting to Shiva and he'll become very aggressive and violent. The stories are all odd, and in each case, the person is so deeply devoted to Shiva that he doesn't care. That all social norms, all what do we call riti rivaj, all nyay, kanun, all that go. I don't care, like I only care about Shiva. So those are extraordinary stories, truly extraordinary stories. And again, like very different flavor from the rest of India. Of course, all bhakti stories have the same. Shiva comes, takes the test, people die, they still don't fail the test. There are the same kind of standard stories, but there are unique stories. I mean, things which things which you couldn't, like, and especially today when we are getting into this whole issue of vegetarian, non-vegetarian, there are all those kind of what do we call things which really shake up preconceived notions. And then of course there are all the issues where these stories are used for workery purposes, where oh, this is patriarchy, this is misogyny, this is casteism, all those standard things also, which without understanding context, without understanding reality of those days. And even when the casteist thing is overcome, they will still find a way to blame the casteist. Like, so we forget about all that and look at the source as it is. But what I found was they were creating processes, like first they did Panchamabhutam, where you have a Shivlingam, earth, water, fire, air, akasha. You can do the Tattva Shuddhi for each one of these, and they have 5 temples spread across. One of them is now in Andhra Pradesh, when linguistic reordering of the boundaries happened. That is Sri Kalahasti, the air. So you have this situation where there are Panchamahabhutams and you can do the Panchamahabhuta Shuddhi. So that is one circuit. Chidambaram is one of them, that is Akasha. So that is one circuit. Then you have Pancha Sabhas of Nataraja. Like I said, when they say Shivan, they mean Nataraja. So you have five halls of Nataraja, which is more or less the same thing again. Like copper, silver, gold, Chitra Sabha, things like that. So again, that is another circuit that is like a really difficult circuit because it is spread across the length and breadth of Tamil Nadu. But you can do that also. Two of the temples are very famous, Madurai and Chidambaram. The other temples are well known in South India, but one of the problems that people from outside face is that it's difficult to find today because of the net and all that. It's a little bit easier, but it is difficult to find and it's difficult to arrange and difficult to travel. And so, it took me about 6 years. So you have Panchasabha, you have Panchamahabhuta, and it gets confusing because okay, this is a Sabha as well as a Bhuta, like Chidambaram is one of them, like it is the Panchamahabhuta Akasha Tattva, and it is also the Golden Sabha because of the golden roof of Chidambaram. Then there is Silva Sabha, which is in Madurai. But Madurai, like I said, Sundareshwara is more. And also, very often when you go to the temple per se, the Sthala Purana of the place is different from what the rest of India understands.
Mm.
The most famous example is Rameshwaram. In all the rest of India, Rameshwaram, the linga is supposed to be sthapana is done by Sri Ram, but in Rameshwaram they'll tell you that Sita Devi did.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yes.
there is also a lingam that Hanuman brought from Kailasa, but it was too late. So, but nevertheless, they leave it there. So there are these, and a very unusual number of Shivlingams there are done sthapana by female rishis.
Mm.
Rameshwaram is one. Then Ekambaranath, which is the earth tattva in Kanchipuram, that is also done by Parvati. Then the Jambukeshwara, which is the water lingam, that is also done by Parvati. So the extraordinary number of, and but still somehow this is all misogynist. In spite of all this, somehow this yeah. I mean, these are like powerhouse top of the mountain temples. Like these are the peak temples. Out of the three of the most famous temples, the sthapana was done by a female rishi, but
Yes.
like still they have to fail. So then there are these lesser, then there are lesser circuits or lesser. Then they said, okay, you have the Panchasabha of Nataraja for those who have the personal bhakti, you have the Tattva Shuddhi. Now what? Then the grahas. So then they have a Navagraha circuit,
Is there
which
an
is where
internet disruption? It seems
is it? I can hear you.
reconnecting. Yeah.
I can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Please
Yeah.
continue. Yeah.
Yeah. So Navagraha is I think the most fascinating thing that Tamil Nadu has done. Because what they do is, and this is really old, huh? This is like Pallava times, which means the oldest temple builders. 1200 years old and all is nothing. In fact, Jambukeshwara temple, if you look at it, it's not a Navagraha, but it is the oldest. I think physically it must be at least 1800 years old. It's that ancient. And in real terms, it must be, heaven only knows how old it is. So what they did with the Navagrahas is, I think, in many ways the most fascinating thing, because all over India, because of Jyotish, and there are always pariharams and there are upais, and like this graha is a, so whenever there is a malefic or an afflicted graha, you are to go to this particular temple where there is separate sannidhi for the planet, the graha, and that planet is under the control of the Shivalinga.
Okay.
Yeah, the Shivalinga controls the graha. So the temple will be known by the graha. It will be famous by the graha. For instance, the temple for Mars is also famous for the Nadi Shastra, the Nadi Vidya,
Mm.
the palm
Yes.
leaf thing. But the fundamental is the Shivalingam. So the Shivalingam, and it's very fascinating if you look at there is one kind of ratio. There is one, like there must be a precise distance between the Shivalinga and the size of the Shivalinga and the Sannadhi of the Graha and the size of the Murti of the Graha. And there will always be, of course, a Devi Sannadhi and everything. This is another, I think, perhaps unique quality of the Tamil Nadu Shaiva temples, where Parvati will have a separate shrine and separate
Mm.
worship and separate puja, and again it will be at a very precise distance from the Shivalinga. I haven't really seen that anywhere else. I haven't, where the Ambal is separately worshipped, and in many cases the Ambal becomes more powerful than the Shivalinga. Madurai is the best example. In fact, there is a joke in Tamil Nadu where who is dominant in the marriage. So they ask Tillai or Madurai. Tillai means it's the guy, that is Nataraja, and Madurai means it's the woman.
Okay.
So that's how deeply it is part of the vernacular. You see,
Hmm,
it
hmm,
has
hmm,
gone
hmm.
so deeply into the common language. The nature of the devta, the swabhava of the devta has gone into the common language. It has become part of the litmus test. So this Navagraha circuit is very fascinating, and man, they are extraordinary temples. And the most extraordinary or the most unusual is the Surya Shivan, because the Surya is the lord of the grahas, and he's in a murti, life-size murti,
Hmm, hmm.
with two Devis. Of course, there is also a Shivling. And the thing is, it is very well known in Tamil Nadu. The rest of India hardly knows that such temples exist, that such processes exist, and the kind of because the puja is uninterrupted, most of them are 3, 4 kala pujas. Chidambaram is unique in having 6 kala pujas, 6 pujas a day. Most of
Hmm.
them are 3 to 4 pujas a day, and the kind of Shakti and the kind of extraordinary power that resides in them, I'm like, we have such treasures, such living treasures, and nobody is aware. And Tamil people are very blasé about it. They are very cool about it. It is
Hmm.
there. You want to come, you come. In fact, they get very happy when they hear you come all the way from Bombay without even knowing a word of the language. They get very happy. I remember in one of the temples, the priest was so happy. Then in his Tamil English and my whatever he's telling me, and then there's the local MLA, and I was introduced to the local MLA. He's come all the way from Bombay just to do darshan. So there is a sort of there is a sort of innocence and purity in these small unknown temples in these places where people have not been as yet corrupted by modern living, and they are very deeply connected to the devta. They feel the devta takes care of them.
Yes, yes.
They feel very much like it is their family routine. It's very wonderful to see. It's
Hmm, hmm.
wonderful to see. And what I do is I keep looking for the smaller temples, like the ones which have a lot of Shakti and no crowd, because with our population anywhere we go, oh my god.
Ah,
Like I was in Tiruvannamalai on Purnima, 5 lakh people came to do Girivalam, to do production of Arunachala.
hmm, hmm.
And it's not even anything special. When it is Kartikeya Deepam, over 1 million people will come, sometimes 2 million people
Yeah.
come. Like, so it is very alive and very living. And then, of course, the greatest advantage that Tamil Nadu has in Shaiva, this thing, is the presence of Arunachala,
Hmm.
the holy mountain, which is regarded as Shiva himself. Ramana
Yes.
Maharishi used to say that Kailasa is Shiva Nivasam, that is where Shiva lives. This is Shiva himself.
Yeah.
And it is enormously ancient. Previously, they used to think it was 400 million years old, but recently, geologically, they discovered it is close to 2 billion years old. And that place is regarded as where consciousness first dawned on this loka, on this planet. And of course, those who know, it is an extraordinary place. The Agnilingam temple is just beside it. So, I'm like, these people are just pouring out riches, whichever path you want. Okay, you have a problem with your horoscope, here, there is a solution. तत्व शुद्धि का प्रॉब्लम है, here there is a solution. नटराजा भक्ति में करने का है तुमको तत्व शुद्धि, उसका भी solution.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's like, and all of them offer pujas, all varieties of pujas, all varieties of, and you can just find a place to sit and do your japa. You can find a place. Of course, most of them are under government control, which is unfortunate. That is the saddest part of the whole story. It's terrible, terrible, terrible issue there. The money is looted without mercy. But that is an overall Indian problem. It is not related to Tamil Nadu. The Tamil Nadu might be one of the worst examples.
Yes.
I have found that every state, when they come, they say our temple department is the worst. I'm like, so this is not a
Hmm.
this is not a bug. This is a feature.
Yes. Yes.
The temple department is rapacious. The temple department is corrupt. It is a feature. So then, in the Navagrahas, one thing I found interesting, which I want to mention: Guru, Jupiter, the temple. In all the temples, there is a sannidhi for the graha. There is a proper murti of the graha. Puja is done, and it is connected. No, no, no. There are many temples to Brahma in Chidambaram itself. Right by the Nataraja shrine, there is a Brahma temple, a small
Yeah.
sannidhi to Brahma. In Tamil Nadu, there are at least 7 or 8 temples which have Brahma sannidhis. One near Trichy is very famous, where again Pradhana Murti is Brahma and Mula Murti is Shiva. No, so it is not so. In Tamil Nadu, Brahma is always getting Shiva offended, and then Shiva punishes him, curses him, cuts his head off. Yes, Arunisha is correct. Arunachala, a lot of us were introduced by me. I can take credit for that. I made Arunachala quite popular in the world, and even Nataraja I made. No, but I want to get back to the Jupiter, the Guru.
Hmm. Hmm.
So everywhere it is fine. We go do the darshan. We look. When I went into the Guru, this thing, I find Dakshinamurti there. Now Dakshinamurti is the Guru form of Shiva, no, like the pure Sattvic Guru form, south
Hmm.
facing. And I'm like, why? Where is the Graha? And like, this is the Graha in gold kavacha, no less, by the way.
Hmm.
Gold kavach, like, and I'm like, no, but this is Shiva, no, this is not. And so then, and they could not comprehend, they could not understand what I'm asking, because for them, this is the Guru temple, yes, and here is the Guru. What are you complaining about? Where is the Graha?
Hmm. Hmm.
This is the Graha. Then I realized that perhaps Dakshinamurti was actually the Jupiter Graha, the Guru Graha itself, which got subsumed into the Shaiva
Hmm.
pantheon.
Yes.
Like, so it's very, because I cannot make myself understood, and they also don't have much fluency in English or Hindi or anything like that. So it's a little problematic, and also for them it is like asking fish about water, because they are so immersed in the
Yes.
they don't understand why you asking these weird ass questions is their basic attitude. So this is a very, very striking thing to me, that Guru does not have ek to the Surya Shivan, which, believe you me, until you see it, you won't believe it.
Yes.
This life-size murti of Shiva. I mean, nobody ever sees a life-size murti of Shiva like that. Even though, if you look at the forms of Shiva, there are Ekapada, Lingo the Bhava, Dakshinamurti, Bhairava, Aghora. They have all, and like in some of the temples, the Bhairava is more prominent. Arunachaleshwara, the Bhairava is very prominent. In the Mercury, the one which is the Buddhan temple, over there, the Aghora Bhairava, he's very prominent. So there are multiple streams, and the Aghora and the Bhairava are the sort of tenuous link with the tantric past. Sometimes you can see some of the sculptures and some of the pujas and some of the ingredients, and you can see, okay, so there is some small tantric stream also flowing. It cannot really die, because nothing really dies in India. So it was a very interesting thing for me to see. And by the way, that Buddhan temple is again one of the unknown hidden gems of Tamil Nadu. It is just spectacular. It is a Pallava temple, low roofs. It looks like a,
Mm.
but my God. And there is a Nataraja there, which is like probably Chola bronze. It's the Nataraja Sannidhi is made of wood with golden roof. And you're like, how come this is not known? Then I get to the point where, like, no, I don't want it to be known. Let it remain like this. You know? I want to go and do darshan in peace. I don't want crowds there. I don't want issues there. So, taking it further, like these people are so connected to Shiva, then they created what are known as the Ashtaviratana temples. Now, this is something where wherever Shiva did some samhara, some famous samhara of some asura or something, they created temple for that. This is another circuit, and it kind of overlays the same area of the. Now, this was very difficult for me, but I managed to do it. I managed to find all of them and go. And I'm not even talking about the Arapada Ved of Murugan, because Muruga is as good as Shiva only in the whole. But Muruga is almost an independent religion in Tamil Nadu.
Mm.
He's a whole independent religion. Some other time we can talk about Muruga. But this Ashtaviratana again, they are ancient temples. And out even in Tamil Nadu, people don't know. Just please hold on. There's some issue here.
Okay.
Please hold a minute.
All right. Yes.
Sorry, Digna.
No
Has to
problem.
happen. The Ashtaviratna temples are like the most spectacular things I have seen. They, in terms of Shakti, in terms of how they are constructed, in terms of the ancientness they have to them, the level of sadhana that obviously great rishis have done over there, and the imprint that they have left. And outside of Tamil Nadu, nobody knows. Even in Tamil Nadu, less and less people seem to know.
Mm.
There is
Mm.
a temple for Gajasamhara, Gajasamhara, where it tears the elephant. Yeah,
Yes.
it's an extraordinary temple. And in the Sannidhi of the Gajasamhara, of course, in all these temples, the main Mula Murti will be Shivalinga. And there is the Sannidhi of the whatever the Viratna. And to make matters more interesting, in all these temples, he is called Virateshwar.
Mm.
You figure out. You figure. They have no problem. Yeah, he's Virateshwar. That is also, yeah, yeah. In all eight, he's Virateshwar. No problem. You figure out. Yeah. So in the Gajasamhara place, they even have a yantra which is supposed to be a wish fulfilling yantra, and people wait for it to be unveiled. And there are so many unusual things which are going on, and nobody has any clue. Nobody has absolutely any clue that these sort of things exist. These sort of ancient places of great power exist, and they are still by Nataraja Kripa not crowded beyond belief. The more famous temples are the Panchamabhuta Stalams are like unfortunate. Any time of day or night they are crowded.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Because they're so famous. It can't be helped. I mean, Jambukeshwara not so much because it is in
Mm.
Trichy and everybody goes to the Vishnu temple in Trichy. You know, but the others are crowded. There is no way around it. But I suppose that is the inevitable consequence of great Shakti. Like for instance, Ekambareshwara, which is the earth tattva lingam, that
Mm.
is where Vishwamitra is supposed to have first articulated the Gayatri. So it is so sacred, it is so powerful. And these people, their belief is something to see. Their faith is so touching to see. There is one where they have Veerabhadreshwara. It is one of the and like this is where Daksha Yaga happened, and you're like, but Daksha Yaga happened in the Himalayas, no? No, no. And if they feel that you're skeptical, they will very helpfully point out the exact spot that it happened. Like right here, it happened right here. So yeah, somebody has, okay, with Nataraja has come. All right, right. So in the beginning, I used to think, what is this? Then I realized it is my lack of understanding. They have recreated that episode at an astral level, and then they have done Stapna there. So at in maybe geographically it did not happen there, but from a spiritual point of view, it 100% happened there. Because they have created such a powerful temple, and the temple where the Veerabhadra was supposed to be there, it was a family temple of the Chola emperors. Before Abhishekam and puja would be done to Tanjavur, they would have to do puja here first. So the timings used to be different, because this was, and they have some issue where you can't approach him directly. So it's so fascinating. There are so many cultural and historical and spiritual things, all like, you cannot approach Veerabhadra directly, so they close off the gate in
Mm.
front of him, whatever so you have to always approach from the side, because the nature of the devta is such. So there are so many fascinating things like that. There is another one where Shiva is handing the Sudarshan Chakra to Vishnu.
Mm.
And that temple, I had this extraordinary experience, because we reached there at around 7:30. Uh, Suddenly the lights went off, electricity cut. And it is in one of the most like boondocks, as you call, or patikada as we call
Mm.
in Malayalam or Tamil, like absolute interior. And
Yeah.
suddenly there is this huge stone temple, and the lights went out, and we said, "Oh damn! Now what do we do?" And it was so fascinating, because from the entrance to the Sannidhi, just by the oil lamps, there was a clear path of light, meaning it was designed in that way.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Everything else is pitch dark, but from that entrance, you can see the Sannidhi, you can see of course, there is a Nandi in between,
Mm.
and just by construction and material and heaven knows what lepam, there was a clear path, and that kind of impressed me more than anything else, perhaps. Like, what level of people were these? What kind of skill did they have? What kind of, people talk about that 80-ton capstone of Tanjavur. They took a 5-mile ramp. They had to build a 5-mile ramp to get that capstone on top of the Tanjavur Brihadeshwara. No doubt, very impressive achievement. But if you look at the Sphinx, that is a minor achievement, because the Sphinx
Mm.
has much heavier things, much higher. But this achievement of creating illumination just by oil lamps,
Yes.
it was like, to me, it was an extraordinary, and like something happened to me at that moment. Like, I kind of understood the sheer magnitude of Shakti and intelligence and capability that was on display here. And we don't see it today, unfortunately, because everything is lit up. One of the
Yes.
worst things that
Yes.
has
Yes.
happened to all temples across India, they
Mm.
run these horrible electric wires. It irritates me deeply
Yes.
to see that. But this was like, I'm like, you do this. And the pujari is calm, and I'm telling him, isn't this astonishing that you can see it just from there, and there's no light, and you just go out of that zone of light and you can't see your hand.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And to him it is like he grew up there, no?
Right.
So that was and all of them are in and around Kumbakonam area, so it's not that
Mm.
difficult to do, though they are really obscure. They're really obscure, but when you go there, you'll realize, man, these are all royal temples. So the other thing I noticed was, look at the generosity of the community, look at the generosity of the kings. In the middle of nowhere, they build this magnificent stone structure. That takes organization, that takes transport. That takes a high level of civilization, which we can't build those temples today.
Yes.
I mean, a
Yes.
few years back, they were trying, in Karnataka, they wanted to recreate a Hoysala temple, and they had to find an Irish professor because he's the only expert left in Hoysala
Mm,
temple
mm.
architecture. There's nobody left. And I'm like, what are we doing? We are sitting on this treasure and we have no idea. We have these magnificent temples which are magnificent architecturally, historically, culturally, in terms of sculpture, and most of all in terms of Shakti, and we have no idea. And the amount of personal growth I had, because I just go to these kshetrams and sit. I just go and, manage to immerse myself because the temple is Shiva, and I didn't really understand what they meant. I just thought it was one, hyperbole of bhakti, like bhaktas always go into that hyperbole. And then I saw these temples and I'm like, you're right. The temple is Shiva. The bhakta is Shiva. And for them it is very clear that to be in the presence of Shiva in Kailasa is greater than Mukti, is greater than, and I'm like, people who make temples like this, no wonder they'll think like that. People who can make temples like this, because you need so many agama shastra, architecture, resources, people willing to give their labor. You have so many things have to come together, and then they create these kshetrams which just blaze. And I'm not even talking about the Ganapati kshetrams, the Muruga kshetrams, that is the Skanda kshetrams, the Devi kshetrams, or the Vishnu kshetrams. I'm not even going there. I'm just talking purely on the Shiva kshetra. And the attainment, it is unparalleled. I'm not saying other places don't have good temples. We know what happened in the north. We
Yes.
know what
Yes.
happened in the north. From Afghanistan to Orissa, you can draw a line and there is not even one ancient temple.
Mm,
We know
mm.
why that happened and we know who did it. And Govar Julabi Tehzeeb का कारण है वो अलग बात है.
Mm.
But to me, so somebody has asked me, you're a Malayali, how did you get into this Nataraja craze? And I'm like, I didn't get into it. I told you, he kidnapped me. No, but I'll tell you how. It's very fascinating. You see how Rina, how it
Mm.
plays out.
Yeah.
My father's village is Etimanur. Etimanur is one of the most famous Mahadeva Kshetrams in Kerala. Now, in Etimanur, Kadutirthi, Vaikam, they are exactly 11 kilometers from each other. Exact. From Shivlingam to Shivlingam is exact 11. And they were supposed to be, the Sthapana was supposed to be done by Ravana's cousin, Khara. Khara Dushana jo
Mm.
hote hai na,
Yes.
yeah. They took 3 lingams from Chidambaram to worship in Lanka. And if they had managed to get it to Lanka, then Lanka would have
Yeah.
been safe forever. So of
Mm,
course all
mm.
the usual stuff happened and he had to do the sthapna in very dire emergency over there. So Etmanu Shivalingam, Kadatirthi Shivalingam, Vaikam Shivalingam all come from Chidambaram. My father's village is Etimanur. I have been there many, many times. So the link was already established that the Shivalingam is come from Chidambaram. And there is this magnificent Nataraja mural, which of course
Mm.
fascinated me as a child. So, this is how deep it goes. This is how deep the connection goes. The sad part is in Chidambaram, nobody is interested. That in Etuvanur, there is a Nataraja mural that the
Yes.
Shivalingam came from Chidambaram. And in Etuvanur, they all respect Chidambaram because Chidambaram is one of the most famous Shiva Kshetrams of the south. But they're also not particularly interested at the fact that there is a connection. Chidambaram has very deep Ramayana connections because Dasaratha is supposed to have done the Putra
Mm.
Kameshti Yagya there in Chidambaram. And again, if you express skepticism, they will point out the exact spot. Yeah, it happened here. So, the fact that Chidambaram is so closely connected to the Ramayana is again not well known.
Mm.
That these, and Etimanur Mahadeva, the other thing, I think I had made a post some time back where, what is the difference between Ishvara, Mahadeva, and Nath? These are the three kinds of Shiva Sthapanas. If you look at Tamil Nadu, it is all Ishvara. If you look at
Yeah.
Maharashtra, it is all Ishvara, because Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu have a very deep organic connection, And most parts of India, it is not. In Kerala and other parts, it is Mahadeva. So even though the Shivlingam came from Chidambaram, it is not Ishvara, it is a Mahadeva. And outside, where is that? In Maharashtra, where Shivaji had his capital, what was that called?
In Shaniwarwada, the Pune?
No, not Pune. Outside Pune, where Shivaji had his capital, he had he was in. There is a Nataraja Kshetram there, because one of the Shankaracharyas wanted a Nataraja Kshetram at the northernmost point of South India. So that Nataraja Kshetram there, it has 4 gates made by one of the states of South India at the time when we had those old guys, N.T. Ramarao, MGR, Karnakaran, and Ramakrishna Hegde. Their names are still there. Each one of them donated, and Kerala donated wood and everything for the roof carving. So there is actually a Chidambaram Kshetram. There is a Nataraja Kshetram in Maharashtra. I went there, but well, there is a Kshetram. Let us leave it at that.
Yeah.
So to come back to what they have done. So you see, if you look at what they have done, they have sort of spread out the Shiva consciousness physically into the land of Tamil Nadu. Like the whole of Tamil Nadu is just saturated with Shiva. There is a temple, for instance, in Coimbatore called Perur. It is called the Chidambaram of the South, Dakshina Chidambaram. The Nataraja Sabha is magnificent. There are some unbelievable sculptures there, which is probably from Vijayanagar or Nayaka times. But it is unusual temple for another reason, because in Perur, karmic action literally stops. As long as you're inside Perur Kshetram, karmic action stops. And I can tell you, it is the most extraordinary sensation. No other temple in the world will have that sensation. The minute you step into it, there is something different going on here. And they actually create, like, they casually created a temple where as long as you're in the temple, karmic action is stopped. I mean, what people were these here? What level, what magnitude, what confidence, and what sort of reliance on God did they have? Like their trust in Shiva was so complete that, chalo, we'll make a kshetram where karma does not operate. You've got to be kidding me, man. No, they're not kidding you. They're deadly serious. You have got to be kidding me. Now, of course, there are some occult and this thing reasons that particular zone. That particular zone is conducive to certain kind of things. So that is why even Sadhguru went and made like the new form of Shiva, Adi Yogi. After centuries, a new form of Shiva has come up. Dhyanalingam came up. It could come up only in Tamil Nadu, because that whole soil is conducive to Shiva. It could come up only in Tamil Nadu. There is no other place it could have come up in. So, I mean, I know, people, he started again on his Tamil Nadu Shiva temples. And I'm like, people, you have no idea. You have no idea what is available. You have no idea what is available. And there is one more circuit, which I haven't done because it's very difficult. I have to figure out the way to do. This is even more funny. Like they take out the Utsava Murti in procession, and so it is Ashtaviratana. There are like 8 types of dances they do. So each temple has a unique dance. When they take out the falcon with the Nataraja Murti, they do a particular kind of dance, and that is the uniqueness. And they're all in one line along the Kaveri. So that is the last circuit left. I've done all the others. I've done all the others means I visited all of them. I know where they are, and now I have to go back and do serious stuff at each one of them. But at least I got it all covered. Panchamahabhutam was done, Navagraha was done, Ashtaviratana was done, Panchasabha was done. So now this one thing is left. Again, it
Hmm.
was one of those stories where one emerald Shivalingam, Indra wanted to give to a king, but he tried to trick him by giving him 6 other options. But he still found the right one. So Indra gave him all 7. And then he made 7. But there are 7 dances. Can you imagine that? Even they have taken the nuance down to such a level that when it comes out in procession, there is a unique way to do the procession. The people who
Yes.
bring it out have to dance in a particular way. And these are all unbroken. Recently, I did a Rudra Homam in Chidambaram for my birthday.
Hmm.
And while it was going on, I suddenly had like I'm thick, so I didn't realize. I suddenly had this realization. This puja is unbroken exactly like this for 6,000 years, man. This is directly from the Vedic, this thing, the Rudram and the Chamakam. So it is the Rudram Chamakam Homam. Pehle Rudra Homam, fir Chamakam Homam. Like this is just coming down exactly like this with no alteration. And
Hmm.
the fact that we are part of that cultural transmission, the fact that we are part of that, what do we call, that is our heritage.
Hmm.
That is what our ancestors left for us. It is, we have intangible cultural treasures of the world and things like that. We have so many of these things that we just don't take it seriously. And when I realized that, I was just in like, oh my God, what are we a part of? What are we sitting? Where are we sitting? And how many over the thousands of years that Chidambaram existed must have kept on happening like this? And so this deep sense of responsibility is there in me that this must be taken forward. We must keep all these traditions alive. We have to support the people who know these traditions. We cannot allow all this to die, because this is what keeps us alive as a people. This is what keeps our religion alive. This is what saves us. And it was just like this, the whole, the mind blasted, at the thought of how ancient this is and how lucky we are that we are in that unbroken stream. The stream of consciousness is flowing from Shiva. The Paramaguru is still blessing us. It was just, I just got overwhelmed at that moment. I was like, I can't believe how lucky I am.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it was just and I mean, this is just like in the time we have, I just wanted to convey my enthusiasm about what they have done. So I just poured out everything.
Ah.
Yeah. Now we can ask questions. Yeah.
All right. Great. Okay. One clarification, because I'm sure that Sri Guru Rohit Arya was not referring to Raigar. So that
Yeah.
thing,
No, it's not
because
Raigar. It's not
yeah,
Raigar.
it's not Raigar. It may be Gingi, which is a temporary thing.
No, no, not
Uh,
Gingi either.
huh.
Which was not Satara, but it's about an hour away from Pune.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Hour or
So
90 minutes away from Pune.
right, right.
It's not Raigar.
So
It's not Raigar.
right.
I'll figure out. I mean, I went there, but I went a while back, and my disappointment was acute. So I let it be. Like the funniest part was they do all the pujas as they were taught. They
Hmm.
do all the
Hmm.
chanting, everything, and then they end with saying Har Har Mahadev. And I'm like, Arey Baba, ye Mahadev nahi hai.
So the
But
kind of confusion that prevails in northern India has some shades in southern India as well.
it seems so. It seems so. And now with the panirification of Tamil Nadu diet, like
Panification.
anywhere you go, paneer. And I'm like, I didn't come to Tamil Nadu to eat paneer. Paneer. They're so proud
Okay,
also that they give you paneer.
Shri Guru, there are scores of questions we have
All
received. I'm
right.
sure we cannot cover all of them, but I'll
Hmm.
take, it is not a comment on the quality of the questions viewers have
Hmm.
put forth, but I'm just picking at random. There have been plenty of good questions. So,
Hmm.
to begin with, let's go chronologically, for example.
Hmm.
You have spoken about variations in forms and rituals in the belief systems under the bigger Shaiva sampradayas. So there are sub sampradayas, and then there are also, things that challenge you theologically, for example, where karma does not work.
Yeah.
So amazing, astonishing, unbelievable, I would say, even to the
Yeah.
extent of. Without going strictly by history, it is, in history, when we say Vedic times, it is a particular period.
Yeah.
It may not refer necessarily to the four Vedas, but
Yeah.
Shiva is pre Vedic, it is said in history.
Correct.
And
Correct.
even in Bhimbetka caves, dating back 10,000 BCE, there are inscriptions and sketches of Shiva. In Rig Veda,
Yes.
it is an adjective,
Yeah.
Rudra.
Yeah.
So,
I think the word Shiva first comes in Atharva Veda.
yes, yes,
Yeah. It
yes.
comes in Atharva
So
Veda.
I'm curious about the fact, and I'm sure many viewers and listeners also are, is that are those ancient forms of deities and rituals still followed in some remote corner of our country or in the world somewhere?
Uh, Nothing ever really dies in India, so I wouldn't be surprised. But given the loss, given the
Hmm,
enormous cultural loss, for instance, there is a Vedic goddess called Kalaratri, very
yes.
obscure.
Hmm,
And
hmm,
once a year in one particular temple in Kerala, they do a column of her, they do a rangoli of her and do the puja. So it happens only one day of the year, but Kalaratri is still the worship remains.
yeah.
So if you look at what the Shaiva Agamas say, we have the tendency, something that we used to date our epics and our events by describing the night sky.
Hmm,
Because if you know the position of the planets, you can work out the time in history. The Hoover Dam in America, made in 1930, the architect actually put a plaque of the night sky there so that if in future years somebody forgets English, just by looking at the night sky, they can figure out when this was made.
hmm, hmm,
So
hmm.
we used to astronomically date our, that was the Indian cultural way of dating events, which other countries don't seem to value very much because it makes us very ancient.
Hmm,
So if you
hmm, hmm.
look at it that way, if you look at it from the astronomical dating, then Shiva is at least 50, 60,000 years old.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm taking,
so
yeah.
yeah, that's like a conservative estimate.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
But that has been the cultural norm of dating, and I don't see why we should reject it merely because it is not a universal norm. That is how we did it.
Yes,
And it
yes.
was a very accurate way. Like I said, it is the only phenomenally accurate. If you look at all the epics, if you look at all our Puranas, everything, when they say the birth of an avatar, at this time, this planet was over here, it was like this star was shining over here.
Hmm,
Why?
hmm.
Because they're giving you an estimate of the time.
Yes,
So when they
yes.
do the calculation, they find that this happened 15,000, 20,000 years ago. How is it
Right.
possible? These Hindus, they're making up stuff.
Yes,
And today,
yes.
as things are getting pushed back further and further, they just found Gobekli Tepe, which is 12,000 years old. So now these Hindus, their dates are becoming more and more plausible.
Yes, and
So,
it will finally end up
yeah.
falsifying the entire, bookwork of history and science as we know it.
Yes.
Because when
Like,
you are dealing with architecture, for example, the sheer marvel where there is
yeah.
a blackout and
Yeah.
the whole corridor is lit up with deepam, and just outside that domain of light there is absolute darkness.
Surajit, not
So
even Deepam in the corridor, just
yes,
from the Sannidhi.
yes,
Just from the lamps in the Sannidhi, from the Garbhagriha, the light is coming out and it is coming in this
yes,
manner.
yes.
And I'm like,
So the
who are
ultimate
these
in
people?
optical engineering.
Yeah,
It is
who
not
are
just
these?
architectural
No,
engineering,
no,
but
no, not at
optical
all.
engineering.
Yeah.
Yes,
Who
yes.
are these people? So, I would, somewhere, some obscure sect somewhere must be keeping those alive,
Hmm,
those forms
hmm,
of alive. For instance, sometime in the early 20th century or mid 20th century, in Parel in Bombay, one murti came out, which was Shiva in the forms of the seven swaras,
Hmm. Hmm.
Saptaswara. Now, have you even heard of it?
Yeah.
And some scholar
Amazing.
went
Yeah.
digging and found there is one form like that. So
Right.
Shiva in the form of Saptaswara, which is understandable because he's the lord of culture, he's the lord of song,
Hmm.
lord of
Hmm.
dance. So of course
Yes.
there will be a form of him as the Saptaswara. But the fact remains that we didn't know there was an actual Rupa. There's an actual form. And again, now, how do we do worship to that? We've forgotten.
Yes.
There are so many forms which we've forgotten how to do worship. There are so many forms which are obscure, we don't know. So I think we have lost a lot. I hope, just like this Kalaratri business, even though it is worshipped only once a year, still
Hmm.
Kalaratri has somehow survived.
Yes. Yes.
So somewhere they must be surviving. That's my
Right.
instinct. I cannot prove it. I
Right.
cannot
Right.
prove it, but it's my instinct that somewhere it must be surviving. And maybe they don't want to make it popular. Maybe they don't
Hmm.
want to come out and tell people.
It
Maybe it just
often
rest.
also falls to disuse when it becomes a popular practice. That is another risk with it.
That,
Just like
that's
you said, the dangers with overcrowded kshetras.
Our kshetras are meant for darshan. They are not
Yes.
meant for this
Pradarshan.
conveyor belt. They are not meant for this conveyor belt. The way what is
Hmm.
happening in
Yes.
Tirupati, for instance, upsets
Yes.
me
Sad.
deeply.
Sad.
It upsets me deeply. Like that is
Hmm.
not how a kshetram should be.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Hmm.
like the general public also have become so deracinated. No,
Yes. Yes.
thing is like
And the state control of temples is making it worse.
that is the most asuric thing. I
Yes.
am openly saying that the state control of temples is the most asuric thing, and we are not protesting against it. We are not asking questions of those we elect about it, and all these idiotic arguments that Brahmins will take control and they won't allow lower caste in. Array in Tamil Nadu, out of the 30,000 temples, only 10,000 of them are Brahmin pujaris.
Yes. Yes.
40,000, sorry, not even
In
30,000.
fact, this the advent of the Shaiva culture, I would say, not a sect, Shaiva
Yeah,
culture, when it emerged and expanded like anything, one of
yeah.
the uh, things which the enemies of our culture would not have liked is challenging stereotypes. Shaivas have challenged stereotypes like anything.
Yeah.
And whether you call it Brahminical, whether you call it patriarchy, everything is smashed. Shiva smashes everything. And
Everything, all bets are
yes,
off, all parameters are dissolved, all
yes.
expectations shall be frustrated.
Which is why,
Oh, yeah,
conversely, there is a risk that the Shiva culture will face increasing hostility from Islamists and communists.
it is already facing, no?
Yes.
It is already facing, no? Sadhguru, his people keep goofing up every Shivratri and making all kinds of absurd tweets. But in that zone of conversion, he went and he
Hmm.
put that Adi Yogi 112 feet.
Hmm. Hmm.
It was like a real thumb in the eye to those people. And
Yes.
you know what they
Yes.
did? One of the local government officials who was a member of a religion I shall not specify,
Hmm. Hmm.
they put a notice saying this is a factory shed. That
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
murti, they said this is a factory shed. This is the level of rancor and hatred towards us.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And asuras, no? So the minute they see Shiva, tanda to chalu hi hota hai na.
Okay, we have an elderly gentleman who says I cannot, comment on YouTube. I'm not very comfortable. He sent me a question via WhatsApp where
Hmm,
he says that Sri Guru, you have mentioned that wielding the Trishula was a latter day addition.
hmm.
Very few also know that even the yoni with the linga is a latter day addition. If you
No, we
could
know
throw
that.
some more light in that.
That is
Yeah.
a tantric. The original Shivlingam was a three-part. It
Hmm,
was a
hmm,
Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesha. It was a three-part, and it was just a stable block of stone. And then the
Yes.
yoni, the lingam in yoni was a very much a tantric. That is well known. It's nothing
Hmm.
to be. And unlike other people, I am not ashamed of it. I'm like,
Hmm.
that is the primal generative act. That is
Yes.
how all of us were born. We are not ashamed of it. If you're ashamed of it, that is your problem.
Hmm.
We Hindus have
Absolutely.
no problem with it. But
Yes.
about the Shivlingam, I'd like to say something, because
Hmm.
what Tamil Nadu has done with Shivlingams, I don't think anybody has ever done.
Right.
Because the Shivlingam, in essence, is Rupa Arupa, neither
Hmm.
form nor formless.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
like,
So
you
glad you
know,
mentioned this.
yeah, because
Hmm.
see, a Shivlingam in essence is an attempt to create an enlightened master without the karmic problems of having a body.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you have the Shakti, you have the Vidya, you have all the knowledge and all the Upasana Paddhati, everything, all that encoded within the Shivlingam. But if you're in human embodiment, there will be human limitations of personality, behavior, life experiences. Of course, the Shivlingam also develops its own personality, but at a fundamental level, a Shivlingam is an attempt to create an enlightened master purely in the energy body with all the six chakras. Sometimes not all the chakras, one or two chakras may be left for certain sadhana reasons or certain what is a particular specific purpose. So I have a very famous post on Shivlingams where I went over all this. You can have Shivlingams for this reason, you can have Shivlingams for that reason. I went on
Yes.
and on and on and on and on. It was one modern day Lingashtakam. So a Shivlingam can be turned to any purpose,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
so long as it's within the dharmic fold.
Yes.
You cannot
Yes.
turn a Shivlingam to some vile purpose or to some
Hmm.
foul
Hmm.
purpose. So long as it is within the dharmic fold, you can have a Shivlingam for Akarshanam, you can have a Shivlingam to attract money. There is even a form of Shiva which is Swarnakshara Bhairava, and there is another one called, what is that? There is a form of Shiva where he is pouring money out to Kubera and Lakshmi. There is a form. There
Hmm.
is, and there are Sannadhis to that form in Tamil Nadu. In the rest of India, Shiva is like a wandering fellow. He's like a sannyasi. He's like a beggar.
Hmm. Hmm.
And in Tamil Nadu, he's always a king,
Yes.
Raja. So he's always shown in royal regalia, crown, jewels. So Aishwarya Ishwara, that's the form. Aishwarya Ishwara, which is
Hmm.
self-evident what it means.
Yes.
Aishwarya
Yes.
Ishwara. But he's standing like that over the Shivlingam and he's pouring, and gold is pouring out of him, and Lakshmi and Kubera are receiving it. Yeah, so
Yes. Yes.
Aishwarya Ishwara, that's again, like I said,
Hmm.
they have experimented with forms of Shiva like nobody on the planet. And all they have almost like, the general perception is that Shiva is formless or maximum Rupa Shivlingam only. But in
Yes.
Tamil Nadu, they're like, yeah, okay, we'll have the Shivlingam, of course. That is the base. The Lingam is the base. You see, what happens in the Kshetram is that the Lingam, when it is sthapana, they do the sthapana,
Hmm.
and it is done correctly, then that energizes that entire Kshetram, the ambit of the temple, sometimes even beyond the temple.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
That energy comes from the stability of that lingam. So the lingam is essentially always a stable energy,
Hmm. Hmm. The foundation
and
of it all.
the
Hmm.
foundation of it is the Adhar.
Yes. Hmm.
It is the
Hmm.
Adhar. And the Devi will usually be the creative or the Shakti part of the Kshetra, which is why
Yes.
very often the Devi becomes more prominent. The Devi
Yes.
in the temple becomes more prominent. But in all cases, the lingam is the core. The
Huh. Huh.
Shivalingam has to be there first. The Kshetram cannot stand
Hmm.
without
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
Shivalingam. The Shivalingam is
Yes.
the reason why the Kshetram exists.
Yeah.
If you're a little sensitive as you develop your sadhana, develop your yoga, you can
Hmm.
immediately
Hmm.
make out the quality and nature of the Shivalingam. How many chakras? What is it? Is it like a fiery lingam? Is it like a calm lingam? Is it like something
Hmm.
that is, like there are so many nuances to these things. Of course, that is a whole another story. Maybe some other time we can get into it. But a Shivlingam is fundamentally this. You must not look at the Shivlingam as a, oh, they are pouring water on a stone. The stone is just scaffolding. The real thing
Mm.
is the pranic body that they have created.
Right. Right.
And the pranic
There.
body is that, yeah, tell me, yeah.
Yeah. Continue, please.
The pranic body is that of an enlightened master.
Mm. Mm.
So that Shivalingam is a guru.
Yes. Yes.
If you have the sense, when you go to a temple, you will understand that here is a guru with none of the problems of a human guru,
Mm. Mm. Mm.
with none of the expectations and the human limitations. You see, human body
Yes.
is problematic.
Yes.
Human
Yes.
body is problematic, and here is an actual guru. And Sharanagati, it is a lovely term. I just love that term.
Mm. Mm.
Sharanagati, not just Sharan, because like Sharan, okay, I surrender. But
Mm.
why?
Mm.
You surrender or you come into the Sharan, you come into the safety. Sharan means to come into the safety.
Yes.
You come
Yes.
into the safety of the Kshetram, and then there is Gati, there is movement.
Yes.
So that initial surrender or that initial entering, that is why they say the temple is Shiva.
Yes.
Shar-
Yes. Yes.
Sharanagati mein aa jao. You come into the Sharanagati of
Yes.
Shiva. The temple is the structure by which you can come into Sharanagati.
I
It is not
accept
necessary.
Shiva as my fate, my destiny.
Yes,
Sharanagati.
absolutely.
Yes.
Sharanagati. It's not
Yes.
necessary that you must only in the temple you can do Sharanagati. You can do
Ah.
outside also. But for
Right.
most people, it is difficult. So there is a whole space created. Like this is very funny. Like whenever I go to Chidambaram, my disciples always look at me weirdly because put one foot outside the main gate of the temple and I put one foot inside, and I just like to see the difference in energy.
Mm.
As
Mm.
soon as you cross the threshold,
Yes.
it is another world, another dimension. And you can actually feel this side is the world with all its grime and you know its
Mm. Mm.
irritations, and this side
Yes.
is something else. It's that remarkable even today. And they have overbuilt it all around, and in many ways it is very diminished.
Right.
But
So, Mrinal Prem Swarup Srivastav, who uses a
uh,
pseudonym on Facebook, he has this
yeah, yeah,
question.
yeah. Is the
Sh- sh-
recreation a one-time thing that happened at the time, or can we say it keeps happening every moment at that kshetra?
Hmm.
Well, if you are aligned to that, you can see it, you can feel it. But I would say, yes, it is a unique moment of recreation. And then
Hmm.
you have to be at a certain level of Shakti. Especially, say for instance, Virabhadra. Virabhadra, Daksha Yaga, he does, like, do you think it's easy to access that level of energy? Do you think it's easy to accept that kind of Raudra form of Shiva? Yeah, I mean, you can. There are many people, like for instance, one of the great Myanmars, the hounds of Shiva, as they are called, the great Shiva saints, 64 of them. He wanted to go to Kailasa, but he was
Yeah,
already
please continue. Yeah.
he was already 80 years or 82 years old. So Shiva recreated Kailasa in one of those temples, and it actually snowed over there. That is what the story says. Snow in Tamil Nadu is a physical impossibility, but it happened. At
Hmm.
least that is
Hmm.
what they say.
Yes.
So in that sense, he had recreated that whole thing. His intense desire for Kailasa was so strong that he had recreated Kailasa there, and the people around him also saw it. And
Hmm.
so,
Hmm.
those are another level of. They were great saints, they were great people, they were great yogis. In
Hmm.
today's world, I doubt very much if it is possible for anybody to be at that level. It's not impossible, but it is certainly very difficult. But I don't see any
Yes.
reason why not. Just because honestly, Surajit, I'll tell you, electricity has been a curse
Hmm.
for spirituality. Because we were a people totally connected to the cosmos, to the night sky, to the constellations. And now,
Yes.
because of electricity and night pollution, that link has been savagely shattered.
Yes. Yes.
And so there is a distinct drop in Shakti. In my grandparents' time, I've heard from the older generation, it was a common occurrence for people to just go to the temple, do darshan, and drop dead.
Mm.
Because they would go into the Kshetram and the entire remaining Prarabdha was burnt up on the spot.
Yes. Yes.
And they were like, oh, the person died. Okay, take him out. Let's do the Shuddhi. And it was just taken for granted, right? The person got
Mm.
moksha in the temple. No problem.
Mm. 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 Mm.
Today, does it happen?
Yeah.
Like,
Electricity has created a realm of artificiality, which
yes, it has created
separates
a,
us from the higher reality.
yeah, it has just created this real disturbance. It
Mm.
has just created this disturbance in the astral and the pranic, this thing, and most of all, I say the loss of the night sky.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
that, not
Yes.
being able
Yes.
to see the cosmos, not being able to see the heavens is very, very damaging psychologically and spirituality.
In
All
Calcutta
temples,
as well as Delhi, I only see a hazy grayish sky. There is no star.
nothing there. You have to go
I'm sure it must
really
be the
out.
same in Mumbai. Yeah.
It's everywhere, it's the same. You have to go
Mm.
really into the interiors, and then finally,
Yes.
it like opens up.
Yeah.
And every temple used to have a pond. It
Mm.
used to have a
Mm.
tank.
Mm.
And
Mm. Mm.
many of these people, they used to watch the night sky in the pond.
Yes.
They used
Yes.
to
Yes.
watch the grahas in the pond.
Yeah.
Instead of craning your head up, they would look at the reflection, and a lot of the astrological and the Jyotish thing used to happen around that time. So
Hmm.
again, that is
Hmm.
another one of the huge cultural losses. It is one
Yes.
of the huge, huge cultural losses. I mean, our losses are immense. Our losses are Mahadeva and Shiva, there is no difference. Mahadeva is a particular kind of sthapana,
Hmm.
where it is a also major difference between Ishvara, Devta, and Bhagwan. Devta is generic term for any. See, this is all oversimplification, but time ke
Hmm.
hisab se. Devta is generic term for any deity. Ishvara is creative impulse of the universe. What creates is Ishvara. Bhagwan is everything that is resplendent and glorious and powerful. So that is why Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, in Bhagavad
Hmm.
Gita, Krishna is
Hmm.
speaking from that point.
Hmm.
He's not
Hmm.
speaking from the Shrishti point, he's speaking from the glory point, and and then the end of that is it is only Bhagwan who can show the Vishwarupa.
Yes.
So that it's a, like I said, these are all grotesque oversimplifications,
Hmm. Hmm.
but
Hmm.
this is the way it plays out. This is
There
the
is
way
a
it plays out.
question based on how we introduce today's discourse, which
Hmm,
is uh, it says that when Sri Guru says that temple is Shiva, Bhakta
hmm,
is Shiva,
hmm,
and then he goes on to uh, explain or elucidate the concept of Arunachala
hmm,
vis-a-vis Kailasha.
hmm,
Kailasha is his abode, but
hmm,
Arunachala is he himself.
hmm, hmm.
What about other temples then? Are they Shiva too, or only Arunachala is Shiva?
No, all temples are Shiva, not
Hmm.
Arunachala. Arunachala is not a
Hmm.
temple, Arunachala is a hill.
Yes.
All Shaiva
Yes.
Kshetrams are Shiva.
Hmm. Yes.
All Shaiva Kshetrams anywhere in the world are Shiva.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
That is the uniqueness of the thought.
Right.
That is the uniqueness of the thought, that you can create a structure which is Shiva. Not full
Hmm.
Shiva, but it is Shiva. Because Shiva is beyond categories. You cannot
Yes.
grasp him in entirety. It is impossible. Anybody who tries is an idiot.
Hmm.
Shiva is that,
Hmm.
you cannot understand. The
Hmm.
magnitude of Shiva is not for human mind. Even if you have an enlightened mind, the magnitude of Shiva is not possible. But
Yes.
all Shiva Kshetrams are Shiva. All
Hmm.
bhaktas, that is to say, all enlightened beings who can see Shiva. You see, one of the interesting things in all these stories is that Shiva always comes as an old man.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, because if he comes in his real form, that's it, you're gone.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So he
Yes.
has to actually dial it down.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
He
Hmm.
has to actually limit the perceptual and the conceptual ability of you to grasp him. But
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
bhaktas, the Nayanmars, as they are called, the
Hmm.
64 Nayanmars, the 64 Shaiva bhaktas of Tamil Nadu, they could see Shiva as his. Even they made the same mistake of not recognizing him when he came in disguise.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
But
Hmm.
they could actually see him in his real form. and that is why they say the bhakta is Shiva.
Yes.
Are one of
Yes.
them Sundara, like that Joker. I mean, I don't know Joker hai ki kya hai. He used to make Shiva be his go between. Yeah, marriage agent bana diya usko. Go and tell that girl's family to marry her to me. And poor guy, he goes and gets it done. Okay, he's very happy. Then he falls in love with another girl. And
Hmm.
he says, now go and do the same with her. He says, what are you doing? And so he does that also. Then he says, okay, one more task for you. Now please
Hmm.
convince my first wife not to be angry, because
Hmm.
now this is
Hmm.
the level of and he's one of the four greatest landmarks.
Ah.
Amongst the 64, there are four who are regarded as the greatest. He's one of
Hmm.
the four greatest. And this is how he's treating Shiva, like he's Dharmendra and Sholay
Hmm.
telling Amitabh. This is how he's treating Shiva. Now, on one hand, you could say how impertinent, how foolish, what nonsense. But on the other hand, think of his attainment, that Shiva has become his friend.
Yes.
And he
Yes.
can tell his friend, mere liye karna, do na.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
so,
It's a
so that is
sakha.
why I'm saying, yeah, that is
Huh.
what I'm saying. These stories challenge all your notions of goodness and spirituality, and they just upend
Hmm.
them, like, because that
Yes.
that basic nature of Shiva is wild, that basic
Hmm.
nature of
Hmm.
Shiva is
Hmm.
uncontrollable. In the end, he is Hara, he is Vinash.
Yes.
In the end, he is Vinash of everything. He is the
Hmm.
the last. He is the last. In the whole
Yes.
cycle of creation, he is the last. You will come to meet him only.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
there is
Hmm.
always that flavor. Even in the nicest stories, there is always that flavor,
Yes.
that, like,
Yes.
that little edge of unpredictability is always there, which is good. I like it. You know.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
tend
Hmm.
to we tend to be too milk and water with our devtas. I don't like
Ah.
that. I don't like
There
that.
is a
Devas and
question
yeah.
about the separation of Deva and Devi, which
Hmm,
hit upon in the middle of the
hmm,
discourse.
hmm.
And the question here is whether this separation is typical of the different Dravidian kingdoms, or is it as pronounced as the separation of Balaji and Mangamma in Tirupati? Like, it is far distance, a long distance between where Balaji is and where Mangamma is.
They are
So
not
is it
too.
the same in Shiva Kshetras also?
No, no, no. They are not that far apart. They're quite close
Hmm.
by. But
Yeah.
I will say that I've never really seen that play out in any other place. I mean, there are temples elsewhere, but in
Yes.
Tamil Nadu, you have this uniqueness of Shivlingam here, and then the Devi somewhere else.
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
if you look at the Pallavas, they used to have the Shivlingam, and then
Hmm.
on the wall behind the Shivlingam, there would always be this gigantic Somaskanda, which means
Ah, yes.
Shiva, yeah,
Yes.
Shiva Parvati and Skanda.
Saw
So
that
that
in
is a
Sri
very,
Sailam. Yeah.
yeah, that is a very unique aspect of the Pallava,
Hmm. Hmm.
thing. So in
Hmm.
that, Shiva is there, Devi is there. So there is Rupa, 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 both.
Hmm.
What makes
Hmm.
Chidambaram unique is that Rupa, 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 Arupa, all three simultaneously.
Yes.
Most
Yes.
temples have
Yes.
only two. In Chidambaram, all three are simultaneous. Is the north eventual spread of all the collective? I would not say that anything has degenerated beyond redemptions, because all things
Hmm.
are possible with the Devas.
Hmm.
All things are possible. There is, in fact, strong bhakti current and element. It would help if the north took on some sadhana and puja paddhatis from the south,
Hmm.
became more
Hmm.
formal about it, re-establish the temples, and don't let people into the garbhagriha. I know that is
Yes.
how it is done, but I would really, except in the places where it is the rule that to complete the sadhana, you have to go and touch the murti, you have to go
Hmm.
and touch the
Hmm.
Shivlingam. In
Yes.
generally, don't let anybody come into the garbhagriha. That
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
that is something that I always feel very disturbed about. I don't like to say anything about it, because if that is the norm, then that is the norm. But it
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
not the norm. I have not seen anybody. I have not seen any Agama Shastra where it is recommended that you go or anybody except the pujari go into the Garbhagriha. So this, I don't know how this happened. I don't know how this happened, that this became a norm that anybody can go in. And I get really irritated when I see Neta Abhineta types go into
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
the Garbhagriha. Like, they are the worst kind of people. They should never be allowed anywhere near the temple only. Okay, but into the Garbhagriha, please.
Okay, this is an innocent question that I wanted to take. I don't know why people ask this question.
Okay.
Whenever a link is shared for a live session, either on Facebook or on YouTube, once the live session is over, it does not mean that video will vanish. You can come anytime. You can come anytime, and I don't know why people ask this question. It will
Right.
remain there forever until I delete it or Facebook does some mischief. It is going to be there. The link for live session also works as a recording once the live session is over. Okay. Yeah. Uh, Shri Guru, please continue.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Yeah. So, like, I would prefer that there be at least this one thing, there would be standardization in all temples. I'm very much against standardization.
Mm, mm,
I say
mm,
every local tradition must be supported and strengthened. But in this one thing, I would like to see a standardization, that don't let anybody into the Garbhagriha. And Raishri also made a
absolutely.
very important point that no money should be exchanged anywhere near the Garbhagriha.
Mm,
He
mm,
had very clearly said that there is too much of this commercial vibe with money, that money vibe should be kept out of the Garbhagriha or in and around the Garbhagriha. I would
mm.
agree with these 2 points, like,
Right.
at least these two things, keep it out. Keep it out. But,
I was
you know,
just counting Sri Guru, and the questions are, number more than 50. I cannot take them. And, the time we had
well,
planned for this show, we have already crossed that. And
I'll take a look at them later. I'll take a look at
yes,
them later, and if they can be briefly answered, I'll just answer them. Or let
yes.
them be, whatever needed to be answered was answered. Because I wanted to let people see that how Tamil Nadu has this unique culture around
Mm,
Shiva, like,
mm,
and how they have sanctified the whole land.
right,
That
right.
is what is so, it is so incredible. They have just sanctified the whole land. You tell me any episode from any Shiva Purana, and it will be there
Mm,
in Tamil Nadu.
yes,
It will be
yes,
there in Tamil Nadu. They have found
yes.
some way to make a sanudhi of it.
Ah,
It is uncanny, like, that is why I say there's nobody who values Shiva the way they value him.
yes,
They have just gone and just saturated themselves with him.
yes.
Like, I don't know why it didn't work in the other places, why only Tamil Nadu took up that, but I'm so grateful that they did it. I'm so grateful that they did it.
Praveen Kumar, this question, each of the Jyotirlingas will take
Hmm.
one episode at least, at least. Each Jyotirlinga, Kashi Vishwanath and Mahakaleshwar. What are you
हाँ,
asking, man?
एक नाथ है एक ईश्वर है. See, there's a different state over there also.
Yes, yes.
ये
So we
ये
surely, it's a
yeah,
good question, but
it's a very good
we
question.
we have to take it up in separate episodes.
Yeah. No, this
It,
is
it,
very
the ca-
specifically to Tamil Nadu. This is very
yes.
specifically to Tamil Nadu, because
Hmm.
most of, see, Mahakaleshwar everybody knows, Kashi
Yes.
Vishwanath everybody knows.
Yes.
People do not know what has been done for Shiva in Tamil Nadu. I just wanted to
Yes.
bring that aspect out.
Hmm. Hmm.
That look, there is something. There are people who have just been so infused with Shiva Bhakti that they have just sanctified the entire land with Shiva Kshetrams. And yeah, okay, the language problem is there, travel problem is there, but man, it is worth it. Once you go to those places, it is worth it. You will never regret it ever. You cannot believe. I literally, you
Yes.
cannot believe. I'm sitting in such an ancient temple, such a
Hmm.
beautiful temple, such a powerful temple. Like all three together at one go.
Hmm.
You
Hmm. Hmm.
literally
Hmm.
cannot believe it. And like somebody was saying, they sit there till the watchman chases them out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, Sri Guru, as you were saying, you did not choose Shiva. Shiva chose you. Nataraja chose you.
Yeah.
And especially in this time period where we are approaching Mahashivaratri, I think he is taking everybody in his avesha because the
Yes.
next slated program was supposed to be with Rajarshi Nandi, a discourse
Hmm.
on Kali, but he has decided to move to Bhairava. He said, though, no, this period is conducive for Bhairava. I'll speak on Bhairava. So that is
Wonderful.
coming up this Sunday, coming up
Wonderful.
soon.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And
You know.
and my partner Shrikant Pandey has invited a Panditji from Kashi Vishwanath who is going
Hmm.
to speak on Hindi on
Hmm.
Shiva
Hmm.
on the day of Shivaratri.
Even
On
better.
Yeah.
Even
So it
better.
is going to be Shiva and Shiva and Shiva. Yeah.
Hara Hara
So
Mahadeva.
Hara Hara Mahadev. So so grateful. We have benefited so much from your discourse, Sri Guru Rohit Arya. I'm sure all the audience has loved it. There is not one negative comment, not one. I have so it's so great to have also an enriched audience. The quality of your disciples, I must note, because I have said it elsewhere, but I want to say it on camera, on the mic, that the theological, the spiritual quality of your disciples is of a different level, which is greatly praiseworthy. And of course, we would like to have you more and more regularly on Swadharma. For the benefit of the audience, for the uninitiated, let me tell you that this media venture that we have started, unlike Sirf News that I used to run uh, elsewhere, is dedicated to Hinduism, to Hindutva. There is no difference between the two, by the way. It is dedicated, we will dive deep into the history, theology, and even rituals, the part which is very much necessary, especially in North India, when we are talking about deracinated people. And let me also recount, with your permission, Sri Guru, an instance or two instances that prompted me to launch this media venture. So last year, my son had Upanayan Sanskara, Janeu Sanskara. And during that, since I had done it in my childhood, I had forgotten certain rituals and so on. So I thought of finding out from some good websites, relatively reliable websites, how it is done, what are the rituals involved, what are the niyamas you have to follow, etc. And not even one website I could find where it was 100% credible information. That was instance number one. Even the mantra that you recite while you wear the janeu, the upavita, that is misspelt everywhere, nearly in all websites. Second incidence, last year after the Durga Puja, after Vijayadashami, among Bengalis there is a Kojagori Lokhi Pujo on the Purnima. Unfortunately, the Purohita was invited to August the occasion. He met with an accident and he could not come in time, and he called from the hospital saying he is very badly injured, but there is no way either he can come or send somebody. Please manage somehow. So this Kojaguri Lokhi Pujo is organized by and large by the grihinis, by the household women, and they had absolutely no clue how to do Lakshmi Puja. So they again started surfing their mobile phones, trying to find out how it is done. And they could not come across one reliable website or YouTube video that had the complete information. Then someone, somebody always takes the initiative. A woman came ahead and said that, okay, this is one website, I think this is more or less reliable, let me chant the mantras from here. And I started moving restlessly, from the back row. And then all the devotees asked me, is something wrong? I said, it's all wrong. It's not something wrong, it's all wrong. And then they said, please aap aage aiye, aap mantra pad dijiye. So this is, 20 years into the age of internet. The internet space, the web space is not rich with our
No,
civilization, our cultural
no,
thing.
no. No, I'll say something most disturbing in
Yes.
your story. There would always be some older ladies who knew the puja better than the pujari. And when
Yes.
the pujari would make a mistake, they would criticize.
Yes. Yes.
This was the norm. Today there are none
Huh.
of those older ladies. What a tragedy.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
They would always know the puja, the entire ritual better than the pujari. And when he would make a mistake, they would scold him. I've seen it
Yes.
happen so many times.
Yes.
And
Yes.
today that part of our culture is also gone. What a tragedy.
Absolutely. Which
No,
is
so
why.
so Surajit, maybe it's your job. Maybe that's what Nataraja wants you to do. That at least you create a compilation of authentic
Hmm.
puja vidhis, mantras,
Yes.
what is to be done at every ritual. Maybe the स्वधर्म का ही वो काम है वो.
Yes.
Because इतने सालों के बाद भी, if after so many years we still don't have any authentic. I mean, I went to Ganga Sagar and the kind of so-called Antyeshti they do over there. I
Hmm.
was like,
Hmm.
thank you. Like I don't want to do
Huh.
I don't
Yes.
want to do
Yes.
any Antyeshti here. Like it was horrifying. It was horrifying. So yeah, the cultural loss is immense, but yeah, it is for us in the cities, and like I said, in the villages, even today, there would have been old ladies who would have been able to manage. If the pujari didn't come, they would have been able to manage. But
Right.
now we don't have people who can do ucharan of the mantra properly.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like we have people who can't speak their own language. We have people who can't say the mantras. We have people who don't have a clue that mantra is supposed to be done a particular way. And yeah, it's a long hill. But on the other hand, I'm like, trust in the devta is mandatory, and we have somewhere lost that. People don't seem to have the trust in the gods. You
Yes.
need to have the trust in the devta. You need to really throw yourself. Here I am now. And then doors start opening up. How did I? Even Nataraja, okay, so Nataraja chose me. He wouldn't let me go into Chidambaram. I would make plan after plan and some Vignam would come. Only
Hmm.
after I did all Panchamahuta, finally at the end, Akasha, okay, now you can come in.
Yes.
So, and I'm
Yes.
like, why are you stopping me from coming? And
Huh.
every time, every time, first you do full Panchabhuta, then you come.
Yeah.
Not your time to come. First go to all those other places, get cleansed, then you come.
Yes. Right.
So it was a big lesson to me, that there is certain appropriateness also. If
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
say, see, everybody says, oh, I trust God implicitly. No, you don't. Because if you did trust God implicitly, then why are you complaining?
Yes.
If
Yes.
you have trusted Him, if you're in full Sharnagati, everything that happens is His will, no?
Yes.
It is
Absolutely.
now the Devta Agya, no? So what do you, so obviously, so that's what I say, no, that Sharnagati of people is on the installment plan, ये ईएमआई जैसा शरणागति होता है कि हर महीने थोड़ा थोड़ा जाता है ऐसे नहीं होता
Yes.
you have to trust like you have to be little mad
Hmm. Hmm.
like when you are with a devta you have to be a little cracked you have to
Yes.
be a
Yes.
little insane about it that no this then you
Yes.
will see all sorts of things start happening and we have a very decorous, genteel, it's like what I say, you're sipping Earl Grey with your pinky sticking out kind of attitude. And our devas are not like
Yes.
our devas are not like that.
Right.
Our devas are, like raw, like so. So have
Absolutely.
this is what I want more than anything else. I want people just to trust. You must trust the deva. If you trust the deva, help will come. And please clean up your life. Don't be one obnoxious kind of person and then expect divine help. You be
Yes.
a quality
Yes.
person. Be a quality person. So and then also go to the kshetrams. That is the other thing. The lack of temple going amongst Hindus.
Yes.
It is the biggest problem.
Hmm. Hmm.
Go to the
Hmm.
Kshetram. So, two, three people were mentioning, because of you, we know Arunachala. Because of you, we went to this
Ah.
temple.
Yes.
So, I'm
Yes.
really happy about that. I'm really happy that because of me, people have been connected to long forgotten, because it must be karmic. Now, there must be some past life connection that they're getting now, everybody will go and start looking up, okay, what are these temples he's talking about, where are these places?
Yes.
And I haven't even spoken about the Muruga temples. I
Hmm.
haven't even spoken about the Ganpati temples. I haven't spoken about
Right.
the Devi temples. And they can all be considered part of the Shaiva ecosystem.
We are
Especially the
sure to
Muruga
have.
temple.
We are sure to host you a lot many more episodes to deal with,
Yes.
to elaborate on, to enlighten people on each of these kshetrams,
Yes.
the specific rituals that are to be followed there,
Oh
the
man,
specific belief systems for each.
I mean, one of my
And
most
it's saying that it's an encyclopedia will be an understatement.
no, but the fact is, the temple is a transmission of cultural legacy.
Hmm.
The fact that a temple can do that puja, which has been done for 5,000, 6,000 years in unbroken transmission, is like, do you know the magnitude, the treasure, the quality of the treasure? Okay, what is Ramesh saying? And the elders will tell the pujari the nuance that needed to be added as per the
Hmm.
Padhati of the
Yes.
Kula. Yes, correct, absolutely. Absolutely. So the loss is immense across all dimensions. You know, ek to we don't have elders anymore. We have people who are trying to hold on to the youth. Abhinivesha itna jada hai in people. I have seen my grandma doing this many times. Yes, we need those grandmas
Yes. Yes.
and those grandpas. We need, like not Raishi, Rajeshwari was saying, we need
Ah.
carnavar, we need the elder of we need carnavars. So yeah, it
Yes.
is it is unfortunately true. But I am so happy to hear this. Yeah, ek Kashi Vishwanath ka ek aa raha hai. Then Rashi is
Hmm.
coming and talking on Bhairava.
Yes.
Like even better. So Shiva has just decided, okay, time to come into the consciousness. Let's pervade even more.
Yes, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. These are all wonderful things to hear. But practice, people,
Hmm.
सिर्फ एंतु कटलेट बनने से कुछ नहीं होता है. साधना करना पड़ता है, ट्रस्ट होना पड़ता है, थोड़ा गट्स डेवलप करो. या अहिंसा का यू नो अफीम सा परमो नशा बंद करो. लर्न.
Uh,
Shastra, develop some spine, man. Develop some.
yes.
You are inheritors of such an ancient and magnificent culture. And तुमको देख के लगता है कि पजामा हो यार, क्या है ये?
Absolutely. It was a greatly sublime experience to be on this
I'm
show.
so
As-
I'm so happy to be able to share this, because all this bubbles in me, and I just get to bore my disciples with it. Now I get to tell everybody.
Yeah, please
I'm so
keep
pleased.
blessing
I'm
your
so happy.
disciples for
I'm so
more and
happy.
more enlightenment and coming back to the track, because in the absence of the grandpas and grandmas, it is gurus like you who we have, and especially those who do not mince their words. The things that you concluded with. There are, of course, otherwise very enlightened gurus, but
Hmm.
influenced by the current times, they try to measure their expressions, which
हम
I think
दुर्वासा
the
के
guru.
वंशज हैं. I am
Hmm.
direct lineal descendant from Durvasa. Make no
Yes,
doubt about it. And he was Shiva Amsha, no? He was a
yes.
Shiva Amsha. So, I'm from Durvasa only. Don't worry about that. I will always.
So, dhanyawada so much, Sri Guru Rohit Arya. Please,
Thank you, everybody.
please
Namaskaram.
be, you will be invited again and again. So, whenever it is possible for you, please grace the occasion. Thanks a lot.
Sarvam
The
Shivamyam. Sarvam Shivamyam. Sarvam Shivamyam.
Thank you, everybody who joined the live session, and whoever missed it. Any link that works as a live session also works as a recording after that. So you need not look for a new link. Click on the same thing. You can listen to the entire thing. Thank you very much. Pranam.